7 dreams in which God speaks to you while you sleep. For a very long time, dreams have been a mysterious domain where the divine and human subconscious make contact with one another. Throughout the Bible, there are countless accounts of God communicating with people via dreams, providing them with direction, warnings, and encouragement. What if, in a world where dreams are frequently disregarded as nothing more than the product of one's imagination, we were to open ourselves up to the idea that God continues to communicate with us in this manner? We will investigate how we can recognize these precious times and respond to the heavenly whispers that occur when we are sleeping. 7 instances in which God communicates with us through our dreams. Even though I will not disclose the specifics of the dream, I experienced a dream last night that I feel was from God. Having this experience prompts a more in-depth theological contemplation on how we could react to dreams that are interpreted as communications from the divine. According to the Bible, there are countless instances where the phenomena of God speaking through dreams occurred, such as in the lives of Joseph and Daniel. Although some people may consider the concept of God speaking via dreams to be naive, that is not the case. We are reminded by these biblical narratives that dreams can function as a channel via which one can receive direction, warnings, or revelation. It is therefore of the utmost importance that we approach our dreams with discernment, taking into consideration whether or not they are by the teachings of the Bible and represent the nature of God. One of the Bible's dreams. There were times when God communicated with a person through a dream in order to either warn them or bring them encouragement. Sometimes it seems as though the dream is trying to tell us something, like brothers submitting themselves to him as if they were sheaves of grain. There are other instances in which the interpretation of the dream is straightforward and devoid of any symbolism. One example of this is when an angel of the Lord revealed to Mary that she would give birth to Jesus. In addition, there are instances in which God communicated with the dreamer directly within the dream itself. On other occasions, however, it is evident that God made use of the dream, despite the fact that God is not a character that was present in the dream. But does God still communicate with us through our dreams? Throughout history, God has communicated with our ancestors through the prophets on several occasions and in a variety of ways. However, in these final days, God has communicated with us through His Son. Therefore, the suggestion here is that God used to communicate with people through their dreams, but that God no longer communicates in this manner because God has communicated with people through Jesus. Even though this is not what the Bible is trying to convey in this particular instance, many would add that God does not communicate in such a manner now that we have the Bible. A difficulty with the protest that was presented before is that once Jesus rose to heaven, God continued to communicate with people in a variety of different ways. Therefore, the assumption that God continues to communicate with people through dreams is supported by the Bible. How often does God communicate with us through our dreams? Only a small number of God's dreams are recorded in the Bible, even though the Bible does record dreams. In light of this, I am not certain that it occurs consistently. It is not my belief that every dream is a gift from God. Even though I have dreams regularly, including virtually every night, I can only recall one previous instance in which I believed that I had a dream from God. We were getting ready to give a sermon at a church. Since I was scheduled to be the guest speaker that Sunday, the pastor inquired as to whether or not I would be interested in leading communion. I don't recall if we all agreed that they would hold communion on a different Sunday, or whether he was going to be the one to lead it. In any case, I ended up experiencing a dream in which I was the one offering communion, and I saw this dream as a sign from God that I needed to be the one offering communion. How can I tell whether I had a dream that God gave to me? The dream that you had the night before. As for me, I'm not entirely sure that it came from God, but when I woke up, I was under the impression that it was probably the case. I had not been thinking about it recently, and it appeared to come out of nowhere. In this particular instance, it was not something that I had been considering. If God chooses to communicate with us through a dream, He does not guarantee that it will be an out-of-this-world extraordinary dream. Whenever God communicates with us in a dream, it is not always going to be evident, just as it is not always obvious when God communicates with us in general. Imagine, for instance, that when Samuel was a young kid, God communicated with him through the medium of a voice that could be heard, but Samuel was under the impression that it was Eli, the priest. The Bible makes it quite clear that we will not always be conscious of it, for God does speak, now in one way, now in another, though no one perceives it. During the time that individuals are falling into a deep sleep, while they are sleeping in their beds, He may talk to them in a dream or a vision of the night. What about the ability to discern? I wholeheartedly affirm that if we have any reason to believe that a dream may have been a manifestation of God, then we ought to put that belief through a process of discernment. We ought to exercise vigilance in light of the warning that Jeremiah issued against certain false prophets. I have heard what the prophets say who prophesy lies in my name. They are heard to exclaim, "I had a dream, I had a dream." For what length of time will these false prophets, who foretell the delusions that they have created, continue to hold this belief in their hearts? Consequently, as I stated in my book, Simply Spirit-Filled, we ought to put anything that we think we are hearing from God to the test, including, of course, using the teachings of the Bible as a reference point. To add insult to injury, this discernment may include more than just you. As an illustration, Paul once had a vision in the middle of the night, something that may be considered a dream, in which he saw a man of Macedonia standing and asking him, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." In the aftermath, we do not witness Paul announcing what this meant for him and the other people who were traveling with him. Instead, we observe that the group of them concluded that God had called us to preach the gospel to them. On a side note, I find it intriguing that the Bible does not mention Paul ever meeting this man. It is possible that the vision was more symbolic or directional than it was a prediction of the future. Let your imagination run wild. If God does communicate with us via our dreams on occasion, and the Bible makes it abundantly apparent that God does so, then we ought to be open to the possibility of recognizing when God may have communicated with us through a dream, rather than spending our lives as if this never occurs. Regrettably, the latter is probably the default viewpoint for a large number of Christians, including a significant number of Pentecostals and Charismatics, at least in North America. Final thoughts. In conclusion, the Bible demonstrates that God can communicate with people through their dreams, and that this is true both in the past and in the present day. Even though not every dream is a communication from God, believers are encouraged to keep an open mind about the possibility of receiving a heavenly message and to seek discernment when interpreting situations like dreams. The practice of engaging in thoughtful meditation and comparing one's dreams to the teachings of the Bible can help navigate this intricate facet of faith. It is ultimately possible for us to strengthen our relationship with God and get direction on our spiritual journey if we are open to hearing the voice of God, whether it be through dreams, visions, or other methods. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us keep creating more informative and exciting content for you. Thanks for watching.